You are staring at a plate of food, and you are treating it like a threat. You look at a bowl of rice, a slice of bread, or a simple potato, and all you see is a math equation that ends in a blood sugar spike. You have been told that controlling diabetes means living a life of subtraction. Take away the pasta. Take away the fruit. Strip your diet down to plain chicken, dry salads, and a constant, exhausting feeling of deprivation. You have been told that the only way to manage your numbers is to build a wall between you and the foods you actually enjoy. But what if the problem is not the food itself? What if the problem is simply the way you are delivering that food to your bloodstream? My name is Dr. Rubio Santner, and today we are going completely off the standard script. I am not going to hand you another miserable list of foods you are permanently banned from eating. I am not going to tell you to starve your cravings or live on water and willpower. Instead, we are going to look at the exact biological machinery inside your stomach and your cells. We are going to change the physical environment of your digestion. Because when you understand how your body actually dismantles food, you stop fearing carbohydrates and you start controlling them. I am going to give you 5 specific, undeniable rules of food science. These are not fad diets. These are mechanical levers that exist inside human physiology. When you pull these levers, you can eat the exact same amount of carbohydrates you are eating right now, but cut the blood sugar impact entirely in half. You are going to learn how to put armor on your food. You are going to learn how to build a physical net inside your stomach. You are going to learn how to literally alter the molecular shape of a potato so your body cannot turn it into raw sugar. Before we change the rules of your kitchen, we need to set one firm boundary. I am sharing targeted food science designed to alter how your body handles glucose, but this does not replace your doctor's advice or your prescribed medication. Never adjust your medical treatments without speaking to your physician directly. With that understood, let us dismantle the biggest lie you have been told about blood sugar. The lie is that a carbohydrate is just a carbohydrate, and the only thing that matters is the total amount you eat. That is completely false. Your body does not care about the total amount of sugar as much as it cares about the speed of the delivery. Think of your bloodstream like a kitchen sink. If you turn the faucet on to a slow, steady drip, the drain handles it perfectly. The water level never rises. The sink never overflows. You could leave that drip running all day, delivering gallons of water, and it would never cause a problem. But if you take a single bucket of water, a fraction of the total amount, and you dump it into the sink all at once, the drain is overwhelmed. The water backs up. It spills over the edges. It ruins the floor. Your metabolism is that drain. When you experience a blood sugar spike, you have not necessarily eaten too much food. You have simply dumped the bucket. The sugar hit the blood too fast. The pancreas panicked, and your system overflowed. Our goal is not to remove the water. Our goal is to change the bucket into a slow, steady drip. And the first way we do that is by changing how the food is dressed. This brings us to rule number 1. Never eat a naked carbohydrate. A naked carbohydrate is any starch or sugar that enters your stomach completely alone. Picture a plain piece of toast. Picture a bowl of oatmeal with nothing added to it. Picture a handful of crackers or a plain apple eaten by itself as a snack. When you eat a naked carbohydrate, it falls into an empty stomach. Your digestive acids and enzymes jump on it immediately. Because there is nothing else in the stomach to distract or slow down those enzymes, they shred that carbohydrate into simple sugars in a matter of minutes. The stomach doors open, and that pure, unhindered sugar floods directly into your small intestine, and then straight into your bloodstream. That is the bucket of water dumping into the sink. Your blood sugar rockets upward. A red alarm goes off in your pancreas, which desperately pumps out massive amounts of insulin to clear the sugar away. That massive insulin dump works too well, plunging your blood sugar down into a deep crash 2 hours later. And what happens when you crash? You feel exhausted, your brain gets foggy, and your body screams for more sugar to fix the low. You are trapped on a roller coaster, all because the carbohydrate went into the system alone. So we put clothes on it. We build armor around the sugar. From today forward, you never eat a carbohydrate unless it is physically tied to a fat, a protein, or a dense fiber. If you are going to eat an apple, you do not eat it alone. You slice it and cover it in almond butter, or you eat it with a handful of walnuts. If you are going to eat a piece of toast, you never eat it dry. You cover it in avocado, or you put 2 scrambled eggs on top of it. If you are going to eat a bowl of oatmeal, you load it with chia seeds, hemp hearts, and a heavy scoop of protein powder. Why does this matter so much? Because fat and protein do not just add calories, they fundamentally alter the speed of digestion. When you swallow that apple with almond butter, it lands in the stomach as a mixed mass. Your digestive enzymes cannot just attack the sugar in the apple. They have to fight their way through the dense, heavy molecules of the fat in the almond butter. The stomach recognizes the fat and the protein, and it signals a specific valve at the bottom of the stomach to tighten up. That valve slows down. Instead of dumping the food into the intestine all at once, it releases it in tiny, slow, measured pulses. The bucket is gone. The steady drip has returned. You just ate the exact same apple. You just consumed the exact same amount of sugar. But because you gave it armor, your blood sugar barely rises. It forms a slow, gentle wave that gives you steady energy for hours with zero crash. You are no longer starving the body of carbohydrates. You are simply forcing the body to work harder to get them. But dressing your carbs is only the first line of defense. Because even if you pair your foods perfectly, you can still trigger a massive glucose spike if you send them down the pipe in the wrong sequence. This brings us to rule number 2, the chronology hack. Most people look at a dinner plate and see one single meal. Your stomach does not see one meal. Your stomach sees a sequence of arrivals. The order in which food travels down your esophagus dictates exactly how your blood sugar responds. Let us look at a standard restaurant experience. You sit down, and what is the very first thing they bring to the table? A basket of warm, dry bread. You are hungry, your stomach is completely empty, and you eat 2 rolls. 15 minutes later, your salad arrives. 30 minutes later, your steak and broccoli arrive. You have just eaten a meal in the single most destructive biological sequence possible. By sending the bread down first into an empty stomach, you gave the carbohydrates a completely clear highway. There was absolutely nothing in the digestive tract to slow them down. The sugar spiked instantly. By the time the fibrous salad and the dense protein of the steak arrived, the damage was already done. The insulin alarm was already ringing. The fat and protein piled on top of the sugar, trapping it and creating a prolonged state of metabolic stress. We are going to completely invert the order. We are going to build a physical barricade inside your body before the sugar ever arrives. Here is the exact sequence you will follow for every major meal. Vegetables first, proteins and fats second, carbohydrates last. When you sit down to eat, you completely ignore the rice, the potatoes, or the bread on your plate. You start entirely with the green vegetables, broccoli, spinach, asparagus, or a dark leafy salad. When you eat vegetables first, the fibrous structure of those plants travels down into your stomach and moves into the upper part of your small intestine. Fiber is a remarkable substance because the human body cannot actually digest it. Instead of breaking down, it unravels. It expands. It coats the inner walls of your intestine, creating a thick, sticky physical mesh. Think of it like laying down a dense carpet over a smooth wooden floor. Once that fibrous mesh is in place, you move to the second phase of the plate, the proteins and the fats. The chicken, the fish, the olive oil, the avocado. These heavy, complex molecules land on top of the vegetable mesh, further slowing down the emptying process of the stomach. Finally, at the very end of the meal, you eat the carbohydrates. You eat the pasta. You eat the rice. When those carbohydrates finally make their way into the intestine, they do not find a clear highway. They hit a traffic jam. They have to slowly filter through the sticky vegetable mesh and the dense wall of protein. The absorption of the sugar into your bloodstream is drastically delayed. You are eating the exact same meal. You are not cutting calories. You are not removing the foods you love. But by simply changing the order of operations, vegetables, protein, then carbs, you can flatten a blood sugar spike by massive margins. You are using the mechanical reality of your digestive tract to protect your bloodstream. So you have armored your food, and you have reordered your plate. But what if we could go one step further? What if we could physically alter the chemical shape of the food itself while it is still sitting on the kitchen counter? This is rule number 3, the temperature hack. or the creation of resistant starch. This is perhaps the most powerful and underutilized tool in food science. It sounds like magic, but it is pure, undeniable chemistry. Let us talk about a white potato or a cup of white rice. These are notoriously fast-digesting carbohydrates. When you boil a potato or cook a pot of rice, the heat forces the tightly packed starch molecules to swell and burst open. They become soft, fluffy, and highly accessible. If you take that rice or that potato straight off the stove and eat it while it is piping hot, your digestive enzymes easily shear those open starches apart. They turn into raw glucose almost immediately, flooding your blood. But you are not going to eat them hot off the stove. Instead, you are going to take that freshly cooked rice or those freshly boiled potatoes, and you are going to put them directly into the refrigerator. And you are going to leave them there for a minimum of 12 hours. As the temperature of the starch drops inside the cold environment of the fridge, a structural transformation occurs. The starch molecules, which were swollen and burst open by the boiling water, begin to pull back together. But they do not return to their original shape. As they cool, they crystallize. They fold in on themselves, locking together in tight, complex formations. We call these molecular knots resistant starch. They are called resistant because they literally resist human digestion. When you take that cooled rice or potato out of the fridge the next day, and yes, even if you reheat it in a pan or the microwave, those molecular knots remain locked tight. The heat of warming it back up does not undo the crystallization. When you eat that reheated rice, it travels down into your stomach. Your digestive enzymes attack it, just like they always do. But the chemical scissors in your gut are not strong enough to cut through those new crystallized knots. The enzymes fail. The starch does not break down into simple sugar. Instead of dissolving into glucose and spiking your blood, a large portion of that food simply bypasses the small intestine entirely. It travels all the way down into your large intestine completely intact. And right there, it becomes a superpower. In your large intestine, the resistant starch acts as a premium food source for the good bacteria in your gut microbiome. Those bacteria ferment the starch, creating powerful byproducts called short-chain fatty acids. These fatty acids travel back up into your body, reduce systemic inflammation, and actually repair the insulin receptors on your cells, making you more sensitive to insulin in the future. Look at the magnitude of what you just did. By simply changing the temperature of the food for 12 hours, you took a fast-acting, blood sugar-spiking carbohydrate, and you transformed it into a slow-digesting, gut-healing superfood. The calories drop, the sugar spike vanishes, the taste remains exactly the same. Cook it, cool it, reheat it. That is the rule. Now, even with food pairing, proper sequencing, and temperature hacks, some carbohydrates are still going to break through the defenses. We need a way to directly interfere with the biological machinery that cuts the food apart. This brings us to rule number 4, the acid blocker. Digestion does not start in the stomach. It starts in your mouth. The moment food touches your tongue, your salivary glands release a highly specific enzyme called alpha amylase. You can think of alpha amylase as millions of microscopic chemical scissors. Their only job in life is to find carbohydrate chains and snip them into individual sugar molecules. These scissors exist in your saliva, and they exist in massive quantities in your upper digestive tract. The faster these scissors work, the faster the sugar hits your blood. If we want to control the sugar, we have to slow down the scissors. And to do that, we use acid, specifically acetic acid. Acetic acid is the active compound found in vinegar. When acetic acid encounters the alpha amylase enzymes, it acts like rust on a blade. It temporarily deactivates them. It blunts their cutting power, slowing their ability to snip the carbohydrate chains by a significant margin. Furthermore, when acetic acid enters the stomach, it signals the muscles of the stomach wall to slow down their contractions. It tightens the release valve, ensuring that whatever food is in the stomach stays there longer, digesting at a much slower, safer rate. This is not an old wives' tale. This is a measurable biological intervention. Here is how you use it. 20 minutes before you sit down to eat a heavy meal, especially a meal that you know contains a high amount of carbohydrates, you are going to prepare a specific drink. You take 1 tall glass of water. You pour in exactly 1 tablespoon of vinegar, Apple cider vinegar is the most common choice, but white vinegar or red wine vinegar works exactly the same way, because the active ingredient is the acetic acid itself. You must dilute it in a large glass of water. Never drink vinegar straight, as the raw acid is strong enough to burn your esophagus and strip the enamel off your teeth. To be completely safe, drink the diluted mixture through a straw, bypassing your teeth entirely. Drink that glass of water 20 minutes before the first bite of food. The acetic acid washes down your throat, coating the digestive tract. It immediately begins neutralizing the alpha amylase scissors. By the time the carbohydrates from your meal arrive in the stomach, the demolition crew has been sedated. The food breaks down at a fraction of its normal speed. The sugar trickles into the blood instead of flooding it. If you are at a restaurant and you cannot mix a glass of vinegar water, you can achieve a very similar effect by ordering a heavy, oil and vinegar-based dressing on your starter salad. The acid from the dressing will perform the exact same mechanical delay. We have manipulated the food. We have changed the sequence. We have altered the molecular structure, and we have rusted the digestive scissors. We have done everything possible in the kitchen and the digestive tract to slow the sugar down. But eventually, no matter how perfectly you engineer the meal, that glucose is going to enter your bloodstream. It has to. That is the fuel that keeps you alive. The final battle does not take place in the stomach. The final battle takes place at the cellular level. When the sugar enters the blood, it needs a place to go. And this is where most people lose control because they suffer from insulin resistance. Imagine every cell in your body as a house with a locked door. The sugar in your blood is a crowd of guests trying to get inside. Insulin is the key that unlocks the door. In a healthy metabolism, the insulin key turns smoothly. The door opens, the sugar rushes inside, and the bloodstream clears out. But if you are managing diabetes, your locks are jammed. The insulin key goes into the door, but it will not turn. The pancreas pushes harder, flooding the blood with more and more keys, but the doors stay stubbornly shut. The sugar is locked outside in the bloodstream, building up to toxic levels, damaging your nerves, your eyes, and your blood vessels. You need a way to open those doors without using the insulin key. You need a back door into the cell. And you have one. It is called human muscle. This brings us to our fifth and final mandate, the muscular sponge. Your skeletal muscles, the muscles in your legs, your back, your arms, are the largest consumers of glucose in the entire human body. They are massive storage tanks for sugar. But here is the critical secret that changes everything. When a muscle is resting, its doors are locked, and it requires insulin to let the sugar in. But when a muscle contracts, when it physically bears weight and moves, a biological override occurs. Muscle contraction forces the doors to open from the inside. It completely bypasses the need for insulin. The physical tension of the muscle fibers pulling against each other literally vacuums the glucose straight out of the bloodstream, pulling it through the open back door, regardless of how insulin resistant you might be. But timing is everything. If you eat a heavy meal and you immediately sit down on the couch to watch television, your muscles are at rest. The doors are locked. The sugar builds up in the blood, trapped by the jammed locks of insulin resistance. The spike hits its absolute peak right around the 45-minute mark. We are going to intercept that spike before it ever reaches the top. Within 30 minutes of finishing your last bite of food, you are going to stand up and you are going to move. You do not need to go to a gym. You do not need to put on workout clothes. You do not even need to break a sweat. You simply need continuous, rhythmic muscle contraction. A brisk 10-minute walk around the neighborhood. Walking up and down a flight of stairs for 5 minutes. Doing a set of body weight squats in your living room while you clean up the kitchen. The moment you start moving, the massive muscles in your legs begin to fire. The physical contraction triggers the biological override. The back doors of the muscle cells fly open. As the sugar from your meal finally enters the bloodstream, it does not get a chance to build up and cause damage. The contracting muscles act like a dry sponge dropped into a puddle of water, soaking up the glucose the exact second it arrives. You are weaponizing your own anatomy. You are taking the burden off your pancreas, bypassing your jammed insulin locks, and manually clearing the sugar from your blood using the raw mechanical power of movement. Look at what we have built here. Look at the system you now control. The old way of living was a defensive crouch. You looked at food with fear. You relied entirely on restriction, hoping that if you just starved yourself of joy, the numbers on the meter would finally behave. It was a game of subtraction, and it is a game you inevitably lose because nobody can live in a state of permanent deprivation. But you are no longer playing that game. You are an engineer of your own physiology. You know that a naked carbohydrate is a bucket of water dumped into a fragile sink, so you clothe every starch in the armor of fat and protein. You know that the stomach is a processing sequence, so you send the heavy, fibrous vegetables down first to build a physical net, trapping the sugar and slowing its escape. You know that heat opens the starch and cold crystallizes it, so you use the temperature of your refrigerator to physically alter the shape of your food, creating resistant knots that your enzymes cannot break. You know that digestion relies on chemical scissors, so you use the acetic acid in a simple glass of vinegar water to rust those blades and delay the breakdown. And finally, you know that your muscles have a back door that ignores insulin entirely, so you use 10 minutes of immediate post-meal movement to vacuum the blood clean exactly when the spike is trying to rise. This is not a diet. A diet is a temporary prison. This is a permanent biological framework. It is an operating system for your metabolism. When you apply these 5 rules, the fear vanishes. The confusion vanishes. You stop looking at a plate of food wondering what it is going to do to you, because you dictate exactly how your body is going to process it. You dictate the speed. You dictate the response. You take the power away from the condition, and you put it squarely back into your own hands. The science is there. The mechanics are real. The only thing left is for you to step into the kitchen and execute the sequence. You are in control now. If this breakdown changed the way you look at your next meal, do not just keep it to yourself. Hit the subscribe button to join Metabolic Health Simplified. Drop a comment below with the word control so I know you are applying these rules today. And share this video with one person who is tired of living in fear of their food. Next time, we are going to expose the hidden sugars hiding in the exact foods you were told were healthy. You won't want to miss it. See you in the next video.